Finding something does not mean that you know the thing. That's the point I'm making. Adam and Eve did not know nakedness until they experienced nakedness. Now I want you to apply this to the definition of this tree. The name of this tree. The Bible says that it was called the tree of what? The knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And Satan said, in the day that you take of this tree, you shall be as God, knowing good and evil. Now I want to ask you, did Adam and Eve know about evil? I believe they must have. What did God tell them? In the day that you eat, what will happen? They knew that there was something called death, right? They could have told you, if you eat of this tree, you will die. They could have told you that something will make you an enemy of God. But they had no personal understanding of what this meant. I tell you, I've thought of this fact that perhaps when you go to heaven, you're going to see colors that you have never seen. Think of one. You can't. You don't have that capacity. You're not a creator. You can only conceive of what you have experience with. Maybe you'll hear musical notes that you have never heard. You can't conceive of it. That's why heaven is going to be so much more wonderful. There are dimensions, there are aspects of it that you just can't. Paul says it has not even entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared. There are things that it's impossible for you to conceive of, because what we can do as human beings is take ideas that we are already aware of and combine them together to come up with new forms that are based on those ideas. But we cannot think of things totally new. So Adam and Eve had no idea what it meant to know evil. They had no idea. When they took of that fruit, for the first time in the history of humanity, a sensation came upon them. An awareness came upon them. That was something that had not been known on this planet before. It was brand new. And it was so strange because as soon as it came upon them, in that moment, the person who had been their best friend became their worst enemy in their eyes. They ran to hide when God appeared. Who had never meant them harm, who had never promised them harm, who had never threatened them, who meant them nothing but good. As soon as he appeared, they ran to hide. Not because of what had happened to him, but because now they knew evil. And that is the effect that the knowledge of evil has upon us. Now I want us to go a little closer in examining this. But first of all, this use of the word know is very popular in the Bible. For example, it says that Adam knew his wife Eve. And what happened? She conceived and bare a son, right? When the angel came to Mary and said, you shall have a son, and you will call his name Jesus, what did Mary say? How can this be, seeing that I know not a man? Some years ago, I think it might be still the norm, in the courts in Jamaica, when a person is accused of a sexual crime, they used to say that he had carnal knowledge of the woman. Carnal knowledge. I don't know if they use the term here. But the word knowledge is used in that sense, meaning that you have a certain kind of relationship that is more than superficial, because I know everybody inside here. But I don't know anybody inside here in that biblical sense. I don't know you in the sense that I have that personal, intimate relationship that we become fused into one. I don't know anybody here in that sense. But the Bible uses the word in this way very often. When the Bible says this is life eternal, that they might know you, the only true God. You think it means theoretical knowledge? It's talking about something far deeper. And if we don't understand this, we are going to end up where the foolish virgins ended up. So the Bible says that Adam and Eve came to know evil. And it means that it became a part of their experience. Satan had not told them the full truth. They did become as God, because God was the only person who had this awareness of sin, apart from Satan when he brought it upon himself. But God knew what sin was. He knew the implications. He's the only person who could know sin without coming under its power, because he's God. He knew what it would mean to know sin. The only way they could come to know evil was by coming under its power and pulling it into their bosom, that they became joined to it like a man to his wife. So when they came to this knowledge of evil, Adam and Eve recognized that they had been had. Satan had not told them the full truth, but it was too late. And later this week we're going to delve a little more deeply into that. But I want us to just look a little more closely at this, at what happened at the tree. Let me ask you this. And I think Ellen White speaks to this. But was there something wrong with the fruit? No. I think logic would say no. But Ellen White also speaks about it. And she says there was nothing wrong with the fruit itself. Now that's a revelation. Because that means it was not the fruit that gave them the knowledge of good and evil. It was not the fruit. There was nothing wrong with the fruit. It was just another tree sitting in the garden. Well, maybe it was different. God made it look different. But when they took of the fruit, somebody says they broke the law that says thou shalt not steal. Now if I say, don't steal my glasses, why would I say this? Simply because I have use for it. I have need of it, right? I need it, so I don't want you to take it. But if God puts a tree there, and he says, don't eat this tree, does God need the tree? I mean, he could have created 1,000 more. Why put a tree there and say, don't touch this tree if he doesn't need it? I mean, in our terminology, we call somebody like that a dog in a manger. A dog who sits there and he won't allow the cows to eat the grass, but he doesn't want it for himself. We don't think that is the way God is. Why do you put a tree there and say, don't touch it when you don't need it? You could almost say this was an unnecessary rule. Why put a restriction there if you don't need the thing that you are prohibiting me from? And that tells us right away that the tree was not the issue. The tree was not the issue. The fact is that God gave them the rule. God gave them the rule simply to give them an opportunity to sin. Now I know you might not like the fact that I put it that way. You prefer if I say God gave them the choice to choose between good and evil. But did they have the choice to choose good? Well, we say yes. But when Adam was created, how was he created? Perfect, in the image of God. He didn't choose it. It was his without choice. What God did was give them an opportunity to choose evil. Because they already had good. What they didn't have was evil. And God gave them an opportunity. And you say, why did he do this? And it comes back to the root of the controversy. Satan in heaven said to God, you are not giving your creatures a fair chance. Why do you assume that your way is always the best way? Satan said, I have set up another system. And if they choose my way, it will be better. They'll be happier. And if God is fair, God has to allow people the freedom to choose. Because I'm going to show you, on Sabbath, I'm going to show you that everything is based on free choice. But we need to understand what that means. So God set up an opportunity for them to sin. And all that the tree was an opportunity to sin. But God was so good, God said, look here, don't go near that tree. Because there's nothing at that tree except sin. The moment you become encountered with that tree, you are going to sin. But it's the only place where I've put this opportunity. No, it didn't have to be a tree. God could have taken a stone and put it there, and he could have called it the stone of good and evil, and he could have said, don't touch the stone. So don't give the tree too much blame. Because the tree was nothing. The real thing that gave them an opportunity for sin was what? Choice combined with the thing that gave them the opportunity for sin was God's commandment. The commandment gave them the opportunity. If God had not made that rule, they could have eaten from that tree for 1,000 years and nothing would have happened. You see what I'm saying? It was the rule that God made that gave them the opportunity to know sin. The tree was nothing. It was the fact that when they went against God, something happened to them. And what gave them the opportunity to go against God was the rule that God made. It was the rule that was the problem. Now this is critical, and I want you to grasp what I'm trying to say. God gave them this opportunity because it was necessary that they should be given an opportunity. But notice, did God want them to know evil? No. In their case, They should never have known evil